There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. It's Monday. It's a brand new week, and you're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon Prime exclusive series, Lore, a chilling 6-episode anthology series. It's created by Aaron Mahnke, and you might recognize that name as the host of one of the most popular and phenomenal podcasts out there, Lore. They've got over 70 million downloads. Well, he's partnered up with an executive producer from The Walking Dead and an executive producer of The X-Files to bring this special 6-episode anthology series directly to Amazon Prime exclusive. And with every episode, you get a very interesting look at different aspects of folklore, urban legend, and history, and how they intertwine and the strange stories contained within. They're based on real historical accounts, and the episodes are a unique mixed blend. They use kind of like this very cool kind of animation. There's archival footage, and they do reenactments. So it really fleshes out and brings the story to life. So you should check it out. If you haven't seen it already, all 6 episodes are up and available on Amazon Prime exclusive. It's a great series. You're bound to find an episode you're going to absolutely love. And if you've been a fan of his show, then you will definitely love the series as well. And if you are not familiar with Lore, well, shame on you. Make sure you go check out the podcast. You're always asking Tim and I, what are our favorite paranormal shows and podcasts? Lore is definitely one that falls into that category. Always entertaining, always interesting. And now, if you love what you've heard on Lore, you'll love what you see on the Amazon Prime exclusive series, Lore, available right now. So check it out for yourself. Let's get started in the world of strange and supernatural. Now, if what Billy Corgan said during a recent appearance on the Howard Stern show is to be believed, then the rocker has seen some things that he can't explain by modern science. The two got to talking about Corgan's appearance on the Alex Jones show, and when Stern said that Jones believes in a race of lizard people, that's when Corgan got paranormal, saying, not to add to the conspiracy, but I've had paranormal experiences in my life that sort of lend itself to that category. After some encouragement from Stern, Corgan continued, let's just say, I was with somebody once, and I saw a transformation that I just can't explain. When Stern followed up and asked what he meant and what he saw the person transform into, was it something other than human, Corgan said, yes, I saw it, and I was totally sober. Imagine you're doing something, and suddenly you turn around, and there's somebody else standing there, Corgan continued. It's hard to explain without going into detail, and I'd rather not go into detail. He didn't want to get into the specifics about the incident, but he did say that the person who transformed acknowledged it when asked what was going on, and that the experience is up there with one of the most intense things I've ever been through. In related news, Tom DeLonge is still really into aliens, and let's not forget that some Australian fans claim to have seen Justin Bieber transform into a giant reptile back in March, because the world is a fascinating and bizarre place, and we'll keep reporting on all of those strange stories. You can check out Corgan's Howard Stern interview. I'm sure they're available in replay on XM Sirius, so go give that a listen. A ghost hunter claims that he filmed a poltergeist slowly push open a door as he pleaded for the spirit to prove its existence. Phil Sinclair was at the Old Chapel in Brampton, Rotherham, trying to lure out ghosts when he captured the door suddenly swing open. The paranormal investigator was playing a tape of the Lord's Prayer being read in a creepy voice. as he wandered around the dark room, desperately asking any spirit to let me know that you're here. Now, when Phil told the ghost, who he thought might be a former minister, to knock on the floor, a door, this kind of creaking sound could suddenly be heard. The camera then swings around to show the previously closed door now completely open. The perplexed Yorkshire ghost hunter then ran through the entrance and shouted for more signs of a supernatural presence. He questioned his team, who assured Phil that it could not have been a draft that opened that door. Posting the creepy footage online, Phil wrote, "Last night, when investigating an old Victorian chapel, I captured a door moving all by itself." According to Phil, the old chapel, which is now used as a community center, is a hotbed of paranormal activity. The last time I was at this location, I feel like I made contact with a child. This time, I returned to check it out. From our research, people have experienced things moving around in here. That's how he wraps up his story in Strange Experience. Now, here's one, the idea of lost civilizations always, just absolutely fascinates me, drives my imagination. I've got to believe that there is so much that we still do not know about what has happened, the real history of our planet. And according to this news story, Atlantis may have been found. An ancient alien pyramid has been discovered on the ocean floor. Ancient undersea pyramids have been discovered off the U.S. coast, according to staggering new claims. A UFO and paranormal investigator claims the history books may have to be rewritten after finding 2 pyramids submerged near the Bahamas. He revealed his findings on his website, UFO Sightings Daily. He said he found them just 6.6 kilometers south of New Providence Island in the Bahamas. He found them by zooming in on a location with Google Earth, which allows users to explore the globe from the comfort of their own armchairs. That's what the dailystar.co.uk is reporting. Using Google measurement calculations, he estimates the structures to be about 100 meters wide and 60 meters high. He blogged, "I found these 2 pyramids on the ocean floor near New Providence Island. That's not far from Florida. The pyramid lines are easy to make out and are the proof that the nearby island was once inhabited by an ancient Mayan or Aztec-like people. The 2 pyramids are not the same. One is a perfect 3-sided structure. The other has a mid-layer, where it had a step-like area before it made it to the top. This one is very similar to Mayan pyramids in Mexico," he says. Mr. Waring went on to make the leap that the pyramids could be from a mysterious ancient civilization, or even built by aliens. I don't know if I'm going to make that leap. Obviously, we've built these kind of structures before on this planet. I'm not certain, and they're finding out more and more of how these giant stones could be moved. I mean, there are current engineers that have figured out very simple pulley systems and rolling systems to move multi-thousand-pound blocks. As a matter of fact, they've even videotaped it now. You can go online and find one man who's able to move 20, 30, 40-ton boulders by himself and position them. He kind of built his own version of Stonehenge. So I think that there's so much more we still need to learn. I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that these things are aliens, even though many others are willing to. But many UFO believers speculate that because there are mysteries around how the ancient pyramids in Egypt were built, they may have been aided by superior beings from outer space. And again, this is Darkness Dave talking, not Scott Waring or anybody else. I just think we don't give people enough credit. There are some interesting and fascinating hieroglyphs. There are some very weird parts of history, and the fact that different civilizations in different parts of the world that would have had no way to communicate with each other built very similar structures in very similar ways and in similar patterns. There's no denying that. Does it mean there was alien intervention? I don't know. It certainly does open the idea that something weird is going on. I'm always fascinated by that, but I thought I'd repeat that story. We don't know. These could be the oldest structures on Earth, he goes on to say, and yet they lay unexplored in shallow water. So I'm sure somebody is going to start getting in there and taking a look at this. His latest claims include suggestions that he found a mural of a soldier from the French Revolution in a NASA Mars footage. Skeptics have repeatedly dismissed his claims as the results of pareidolia. And that's why we don't always read a lot of Scott's stories. But because this is something that you can see on Google Earth, and he does make a pretty compelling argument for the imagery. Again, I'd have to see it myself. It looks like two of the other pieces that are not highlighted in the picture look much more like pyramids to me, unless that's just enlarged and a far away view. I'm not quite sure how I'm looking at this picture, and they're not real clearly defined. Speaking of aliens, really kind of an interesting story coming out of the political climate. Florida candidate says that aliens took her aboard their ship at the age of 7. Her name is Rodriguez Aguilera, and she said that news reports were portraying in a negative way an experience she had when she was 7 and ignores everything that she's done since then. A Florida candidate for Congress said Monday she stands by her claims that she was abducted to an alien spaceship at the age of 7, but that the incident shouldn't detract from what she's done here on Earth since then. Bettina Rodriguez Aguilera has claimed in past Spanish TV network appearances, most recently back in 2011, that she was taken aboard a ship with 3 blonde creatures that resembled Rio de Janeiro's Christ the Redeemer statue. I don't know exactly what happened, she told the Associated Press back on Monday. I believe it is real, but I was 7 years old. It was an experience I had 1,000 years ago. Since those television appearances, Rodriguez Aguilera has served as a council member in the city of Doral, where she was appointed vice mayor. She also teaches leadership at Miami-Dade College and runs a consulting firm, Betanara Enterprises. She is one of 5 Republicans running to replace Representative Ailina Ros-Lehthian, which is a Republican from Florida, when she retires at the end of next year. Ros-Lehthian's retirement opens up a competitive seat that Democrats have high hopes of capturing, as Hillary Clinton won the district last year. Aguilera declined now to go into details on what she said in her 2009 appearance on America TV, where she claimed that the extraterrestrials told her the center of the world's energy is in Africa. She then talks about 30,000 non-human skulls discovered in a cave on the Mediterranean island of Malta. Another video uploaded in 2011 also showed Rodriguez Aguilera in a TV show talking about that. The videos were cited in a Miami Herald story Monday and are available on YouTube. In them, Rodriguez Aguilera mentions seeing paranormal activity later while growing up in Miami when she was 12 and into her teens. She cites a UFO sighting when she was 17 and referred to an article in the same newspaper that she says corroborated what she saw. Rodriguez Aguilera said news reports were portraying in a negative way this experience that she had when she was 7 and seems to ignore everything else that she's done since, which is pretty understandable. I mean, for God's sakes, the woman saw a UFO, claims that she was abducted by UFOs. This isn't just a kind of story you walk away from and think, oh, yeah, I'm not sure, maybe we should just go past this. I know there's some other big news in the world of conspiracy, and might as well cover this since we're already kind of talking politics. There was big news released this weekend, of course, again, through a tweet, that Donald Trump is planning on releasing a majority, if not all, of the files on the JFK assassination and making them available in detail. And I guess there have been quite a few of the different alphabet letter agencies that are requesting that he does not do this. So it'll be interesting. I think it's due around the 25th or 26th of the month. And they're supposed to release a lot of this information. Now, if they do release it, I'm just wondering what it's going to take and how long it's going to take to go through all of this documentation. What are they going to be able to find? What are they going to be able to prove? And that, I think, is going to be something that's going to be, the main focus for this. I think people, but again, there have been huge reports that have been released and people have got on it immediately and have had something to report. So it very well could be that we will get an answer relatively quickly. I'm trying to see if I can find a more updated story on this. Story regarding Trump. Again, he released the information over the weekend in a tweet. So we know how that's gone in the past, and not everything always comes out from that. It says in this current article from CNN that President Donald Trump said Saturday he intends to allow the release of classified government documents about the assassination of President John Kennedy, subject to the receipt of further information. So Trump's tweet comes as he's staring down an October 26th deadline set in law by Congress that's mandating the public release of the still secret documents, including FBI and CIA files, barring any action by the president to block the release of these certain documents. So right now, they are due to come out October 26, unless the president decides to block and lock them again. Subject to the receipt of further information, I will be allowing, as president, the long blocked and classified JFK files to be opened. That's what Trump has said, appearing to leave open the possibility that some documents could still be withheld. A White House official told reporters on Saturday, the president believes that these documents should be made available in the interests of full transparency unless agencies provide a compelling and clear national security or law enforcement justification otherwise. So that's going to be interesting. By releasing this information, if we do find out that there is a conspiracy behind this, how can that not kind of upend national security and law enforcement and justice? It's going to be crazy. The White House said in a statement to Politico earlier this week that the White House was working to ensure that the maximum amount of data can be released to the public by next week's deadline. Trump himself is no stranger to the controversies and conspiracy theories that have long swirled around the assassination of our 35th president. During his 2016 campaign, you guys might remember that Trump made the unfounded claim that the father of GOP rival Senator Ted Cruz was associated with Kennedy assassin Lee Harvey Oswald, a claim he never reneged and never apologized for. Trump's longtime political advisor, Roger Stone, who helped launch Trump's campaign for president, is also an avid conspiracy theorist who wrote a book about the wild claim that President Lyndon B. Johnson, Kennedy's vice president, was involved in Kennedy's assassination. Stone tweeted Saturday morning that he urged Trump to release the classified documents. His tweet said, "Congratulations to @RealDonaldTrump on his decision to release the JFK files. Transparency matters." And then he followed it up with, "Yes, I urged @RealDonaldTrump to release the classified JFK files. My hero." Republican members of Congress, including Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley of Iowa, have urged Trump to allow the full release of the documents. "No reason to keep hidden anymore," Grassley tweeted earlier this month. "Time to let American people and historians draw their own conclusions." Historians who have studied the assassination do not believe that the documents will lead to any bombshell new conclusions in the Kennedy assassination, but the documents could shed more lights on facets of the investigation and Oswald's mysterious trip to Mexico City, which took place weeks before the assassination. Now, some have expressed concerns that the documents could be embarrassing to Mexico and damaging to the U.S.-Mexico relations. So that'll be interesting to see play out. Trump can withhold the release of certain documents if he believes their release could pose harm to U.S. intelligence, law enforcement, the military, or U.S. foreign relations. There's going to be no smoking gun in there, Gerald Posner, the author of Case Closed, Lee Harvey Oswald, and the assassination of JFK, told CNN's Michael Smercornish. But anybody who thinks this is going to turn the case on its head and suddenly show that there were 3 or 4 shooters at Dealey Plaza, this is not the case. Oswald did it alone, Posner continued, but what the files are doing and why they're important to come out is that they fill in the history of the case and show us how the FBI and CIA repeatedly hid this evidence. Posner said that the conspiracy theories about the CIA and the mob working together to assassinate a head of state are true. But the target was Cuban leader Fidel Castro, not John Kennedy. They tried 7 times, and they couldn't even wound Castro. They couldn't get rid of him. But somehow these guys, who were an F there, pulled off the perfect crime in Dallas. And 54 years later, we can find not a shred of evidence about it. I just don't buy it, he said. Now, he is weighing in on his own personal thoughts here, and he's got a book to sell saying that he believes the case is closed. So, of course, I don't expect much of a different stance until these results come out. We'll see if he changes his mind. Ken Hughes is a presidential researcher at the University of Virginia Miller's Center. He told CNN the files could shed light on the U.S. involvement in the attempts to assassinate Castro, as well as the U.S.-approved coup of South Vietnamese leader Nguyen Dinh Diem back in 1963. There's a lot for conventional historians we non-conspiracy theorists look forward to, he said. And that's been released this week through CNN. Let's see what else we've got here. Going to the Express, it says, watch chairs move and doors slam as a ghost of landlord was caught on camera in a haunted pub. That's right, shocking closed-circuit TV footage from a haunted pub appears to show chairs and doors moving on their own in the middle of the night. Now, the video was filmed at Tyler's Clyn Pub in Canterbury, Kent, and has been labeled possible proof of poltergeist activity after the bizarre scenes were viewed. Staff at the pub had previously reported shadows passing doors, glasses flying off shelves, and lights mysteriously turning on. In the new video, caught by motion sensors, first a chair in the beer garden is seen moving a significant distance back and forwards. Then, inside the pub, a door slams shut when no one was apparently there. And a smaller saloon door is also seen opening and closing. And I'm watching the video as I'm talking about this. Again, so much can be done now with special effects at home, but if this is legitimate CCTV footage, this is pretty interesting, pretty compelling footage. The baffling footage went viral after pub boss Alistair Collins posted it online, according to dailystar.co.uk reports. He said that it's been quite surprising just how much reaction there has been. I'd always heard stories about the pub being haunted, and staff are always talking of hearing footsteps when no one else is around. There's also this cold spot immediately in front of the bar. Even when the full heating is on, customers regularly move from that spot due to the lower temperature. Some viewers were shocked by what they saw. One posted, "Creepy stuff, wouldn't want to be on my own in there." Another said, "Wow, seems like spirits and not the bottle kind." And a third added, "Looks scary to me. It can't be to drum up trade. I would run a mile, not go back if I saw something like this." There is a paranormal group that wants to carry out an investigation at the pub. No surprise there. The footage was put together with video filmed over 2 months from August. Mr. Collins insists it's not a hoax and that the footage, which also caught an umbrella opening in the beer garden, is unedited. The pub cleaner Amanda Gilbert has experienced the most paranormal activity. She said, "I can hear the saloon swing gates swing when I'm cleaning the front of the pub, and when I go to have a look, they're still swinging slightly, but no one else is in the building. One time I walked past the drink storage cupboard, and it was shut with the lights off. But when I came back, the cupboard door had opened. And you guys guessed it, the lights were on." All right, one time, let's see what else she's got to say in the story. It's believed it could be the ghost of a local mechanic. However, Suzanne Sherwood, whose parents used to run the pub when it was called the Ivy House, said it was likely the ghost of a former landlord. She said, "That'll be Gilbert. My mom and dad used to live there and run the Ivy House many moons ago, and Gilbert made his presence felt. He was a former landlord. Prawn cocktail crisp bags disappear regularly off the shelves." Well, at least he's got good taste. He's messing with the liquor, messing with the prawn cocktail chips. Very weird. Bars, in general, seem to always have some kind of weird haunting. There was a bar in Chicago that I went to many, many years. Gosh, it has to be 26, 27 years ago when Richard Crowe was still alive, and he was hosting the Chicago haunting tours. And he took us into a few of these bars. And in one of the bars, they had the previous owner, I guess, fell backwards and cracked his head open and died on the spot. And he is known to haunt the back room. But the bartender was telling me while everybody was back in the back room, and they're all messing about trying to get touched by the ghost because apparently he likes to feel the legs of women in the back room. She was telling me about how he likes to play with balloons, and she brought a balloon out, and this balloon did weird things all around the bar. She would have me move his favorite bottle of liquor from spot to spot in the bar, and the balloon would eventually move over and stop and hang over it. I was picking the spots. So it wasn't like she knew the random spots that the fans would blow the balloon and when they might go. So I was picking them out, and that damn balloon would move around the bar and hang over that bottle. So it's not too far removed to believe that, I guess, if you're going to die and you loved your bar, that's going to be the place you're going to hang out. All right, here's a weird one. We've got Malawi, which is cracking down on vampire lynch mobs. It's 2017, folks. You just heard that headline right. Police in Southeast African state of Malawi say they've arrested 140 members of lynch mobs who attacked people suspected of being vampires. At least 8 people are believed to have been killed, including 2 men on Thursday in the second city, Blantyre. One was set on fire and the other stoned to death, according to police. 2 others were arrested for threatening to suck people's blood, but police say they have no medical reports of any actual blood sucking taking place. Vigilante killings started on the 16th of September when 3 people suspected of being bloodsuckers were killed by a mob. Traditional leaders in southern Malawi believe that vampire rumors started across the border in Mozambique, where rumors of blood-sucking have led to violence this week. In Mozambique, protesters have targeted police because they believe they are protecting the supposed vampires, leading a northern town's administrator to flee the city. The villagers in those areas believe human blood-sucking is a ritual practiced by some to become rich. They also believe they're failing to catch the bloodsuckers because they're using magical powers. In these communities, they believe that the mysterious magical explanations for things, then people will tend to attribute their difficulty on what they're having to the bloodsuckers. Dr. Shioza Bandawa, a clinical psychologist at the University of Malawi, said, "For some, that represents the life of hope being sucked out of them," he said. But this has been expressed on innocent people or on people who are just different. James Calisdera, Malawi's national police spokesman, told the BBC that police patrols had been stepped up in areas that have been affected. He also said they would arrest anybody who's deemed to have taken part in the killings. A curfew has been imposed in parts of the south, and earlier this month the UN instructed staff to move to safer areas. President Peter Mutharika, who has been visiting the areas concerned, has vowed to investigate these killings. Many aid agencies and non-governmental organizations work in Malawi, one of the world's poorest countries. Educational standards are low, with belief in witchcraft. Widespread vigilante violence linked to vampire rumors also erupted back in 2002. So believe it or not, folks, this is still a thing. The idea that vampires are stalking the planet and that witchcraft, and I understand that there are Wiccans and people that believe in magic and witchcraft, but I don't think they're talking about it in the same type of vein that this article is going on. But there are some parts of the world that still believe in this. So if you ever look back and think it's impossible to believe that people really believed in vampires and werewolves and dragons, oh my, it's true, because there are still some of these countries and uneducated areas that still believe in these things. Very, very cool. Let's see. Woman claims she was possessed by the ghost from her attic. Cambridge emergency responders at the North 11th Street home early Sunday learned that a woman who collapsed on the porch was allegedly possessed by a ghost and not suffering a medical ailment as originally reported to authorities. The resident refused medical treatment, including transportation to Southeastern Medical, after collapsing because her malady was spiritual, not medical. The woman reportedly advised she was possessed by a ghost who lives in her attic. According to the police reports, emergency responders from United Ambulance, the Cambridge Fire Department, and Police Department were dispatched to the residence at 2:45 a.m. Sunday after the woman collapsed on her porch. On arrival, police officers located the victim lying on the porch with her daughter standing over her mother. The mother and daughter advised police a ghost named Angelica, who lives in their attic, had taken over the mother's body. When the United Ambulance personnel and firefighters arrived, the mother reportedly refused transport to the hospital. She told responders that a ghost named George lives in the basement of the North 11th Street home, and the family had blocked both the door to the attic and the door to the basement to keep the spirits contained. Now, at some point, the spirit from the attic has seemed to have escaped and taken over the mother's body. A daughter reportedly told police she would need to contact a priest, but she didn't know any in the area. With the mother refusing medical treatment, emergency responders had to leave and were cleared from the scene. Prior to officers leaving, the mother reportedly said she had consumed several shots of alcohol at a Wheeling Avenue business earlier in the night. Rick Stilson is a reporter with the Cambridge Daily Jeffersonian and reported that story. It always seems that the spirits we may be dealing with could be more bottle than believable, which is a shame. Talking about believability, here's a really interesting story. The Indonesian Space Institute is under siege by flat Earth believers. We're going to go to Jakarta for this next story. It's part of the Jakarta Post. As the National Institute of Aeronautics and Space, LAPN, is striving to achieve its goals to advance the country's technology and aeronautical field, it is facing a very big problem that has been emerging recently. Flat Earth believers. The group, which became a social media phenomenon last year, believes the Earth is indeed flat instead of round. They often cite modern conspiracy theories as well as literal non-mainstream readings of the Holy Scriptures as the basis of their statements. Believers of the theory have been swarming LAPN's social media accounts for months, including a Facebook group of which the institution head, Thomas Jamuljan, is a member. Their only purpose to challenge the simple fact that the Earth is spherical. This has forced Thomas to purge the group of any users that push this point of view by deleting their comments and blocking them from the group. This attempt is meant to keep the discussion useful for others to learn about aeronautics and space. The fairy tale of a flat Earth is a public duping attempt, Thomas wrote in the group on October 9th. The spokesman for Lapin, Christianius Dewanto, told the Jakarta Post on Tuesday, October 17th, that he regretted the appearance of such challenging comments after Lapin had welcomed flat earthers to its offices for a discussion. This discussion, he said, was intense. He referred to a meeting between Thomas and a representative from the Indonesian Flat Earth Society at Lapin's offices in Jakarta late last year. Thomas, who is an astronomy and astrophysics professor, discussed every subject under the sun with the flat earth believer. Among the topics discussed was the size of the sun, with the flat earther arguing that the sun looks bigger in the morning. The professor stressed that the sun's size remains the same throughout the day. The apparent difference is created by the Earth's atmosphere refracting the light. After the meeting, Thomas uploaded an 80-minute video containing the discussion on his blog. Christianius said he understood this was all about mindset and it would be a tough task to influence. We don't have a problem with that, as we will provide them with scientific facts that are as clear as possible. First expressed during the time of ancient Greeks, the flat earth misconception has often reared its head over the centuries. The latest reappearance occurred last year with many people posting videos on YouTube in which they claimed that the concept of a round earth was part of a global conspiracy theory. Boy, I wonder if we're part of that, as Tim and I did 2 or 3 episodes on Flat Earth last year alone. In Indonesia, the misconception has found its supporters, with a Facebook group named Indonesian Flat Earth Society having attracted more than 20,500 members as of Tuesday. And it was fascinating to talk about this and hear this. You think it sounds absurd. And we listened to our guest, and he was just fascinating. The information he shared was fascinating and interesting. Although it's not something I subscribe to, it certainly at points made you stop and scratch your head and ask a few questions, which I think is always good and well respected. But there are so many people jumping on this flat earth bandwagon. It's interesting, and watching science respond to it has got to be a little frustrating, but I think it's also great because it opens a dialogue to science that other people may not have normally had an interest in. And because they're reading to hear what these loony, quote-unquote, flat earthers believe, they may actually be learning some of the science and principles behind why we see and perceive things the way we do. So I think that even though a lot of people are very frustrated by what they think is the ignorance of the flat earthers, I think it's a great way for people to open discussion and science and share some really great information and, be able to express theories and thoughts and ideas and get access to science who can then answer these questions for us. Now, if the science wasn't holding up, certainly we have something to hold back, but I'm not finding any of these cases where the science doesn't hold up with what we know. And listen, if you can talk about refraction and light reflection and you can show it on a smaller scale, which they can, then you have to allow for the fact that it can be enlarged and that what you're seeing is an optical illusion or the way the Earth is positioned at the certain times of day. I'm still fascinated by the topic and love talking about the idea, but I don't know. It's just interesting to me that there's this big derision about that. But again, if it opens up the possibility for people to communicate more and maybe learn more, God bless them. I think it's great. Here's a question. Is Bigfoot visiting a Northern California lake? A self-described paranormal expert says yes. We're going to Avocado Lake, California. Is a legendary Bigfoot at a Northern California lake? One paranormal investigator thinks so, according to a Fox News report. Bigfoot and other creatures like it have reportedly been spotted by a local farmer near Avocado Lake, according to self-described paranormal expert Jeffrey Gonzalez. Gonzalez said that the farmer told him he saw the creature and 5 others running on his ranch. The lake is located near Fresno. One of them, which was extremely tall, had a pig over its shoulder, Gonzalez said in comments obtained by Fox 26, a Fox News affiliate. and the 5 scattered, with the one with the pig running so fast it didn't see an irrigation pipe, and it tripped with the pig flying head over heels. Gonzalez has posted several reports and photos related to the sightings on his Facebook page. He's a technician at AT&T who describes himself as a talk show host, investigator at Paranormal Central, and founder of the Sanger Paranormal Society. Gonzalez said that the sighting is not that uncommon, with 3 additional Bigfoot sightings in the past 5 years, all located in East Fresno County. I would have never guessed in a million years that you would have told me there were Bigfoot on Shields or Ashland Avenue, right? So I want to know what's going on. Is this for real? Gonzalez said. He recounted 2 other stories, including one from a woman who said her 2 sons saw a Bigfoot in their orchard, and one from a man who saw 5 creatures in the same orchard. What are the odds of 3 people, 3 different families who don't know each other within a radius of 2 to 3 miles coming and telling me what they're witnessing, and it all matches up, Gonzalez said. So we'll keep following that story. That's always an interesting part of the story to me. I love Bigfoot stories and what's going on out there. Hey, I want to make a quick mention to you guys. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, our exclusive sponsor on our Monday shows is the new Amazon Prime exclusive series Lore. And that is a chilling 6-episode anthology series that began on October 13th. It's on Amazon Prime exclusive video. You can check it out. They've got an executive producer from The Walking Dead. They've also got an executive producer from The X-Files involved on this. Aaron Mahnke, who is the host of the very popular podcast Phenomena Lore that has over 70 million downloads, is the creator and narrator. He explores some of the most terrifying tales that have been told throughout history. And then each one of these kind of uniquely creepy episodes, they take a myth that's rooted in historical folklore, and then they twist it, exposing the timeless terrors that still haunt us today. Real life can scare you to death. The one episode we just got a chance to watch, my kids are really into this, and they love the history aspect of these stories. We watched, of course, They Made a Tonic, which was the first episode on there, which I thought was really fascinating because there's a story about Mercy Brown, the New England vampire. And they're fascinated by the medical stories and how it unfolded and how it could look to be vampiric and fit that kind of vampire lore. Then we watched Unboxed, which was about Robert the Doll, and that effectively freaked out my younger daughter in the sense that she just is weirded out by dolls as it is, except for her couple of baby dolls. But that story is really cool. The one that I was really fascinated with that we just watched was the episode Black Stockings. And takes place in 19th century Ireland. And the folklore there has a very strong hold. I got a chance to go out to Ireland a few years ago, and I talked to the gentleman that owns Leap Castle, and to hear the stories of the banshees and the wee people and fairy folk and things like that were really kind of interesting to be on site on the property. And although they're not very open about the idea of ghosts, when you start to talk about fairy stories, they really open up about it. And in the story, Black Stockings, Michael Cleary is convinced that his wife, Bridget, has been replaced by a fairy that's called a changeling. And his belief drives him to do something really extreme. I don't want to give much away on the episode because I think it's something you've got to see for yourself. But if you're not familiar, the changeling story really captured my attention when we were out in Ireland. And it appears that fairy women all over Ireland find birth, I guess, a very difficult experience. And many fairy children die before birth. And those that do survive, they're kind of stunted or deformed creatures. So the adult fairies, who are aesthetic beings, they're kind of repelled by these infants and have no wish to keep them. And they try to swap them with healthy children from our realm. And they steal them from the mortal world. Then they have these kind of wizened, ill-tempered creatures that are left in place of the human child. And they're known as the changeling. And they possess the power to kind of work evil in a household. And any child who's not baptized or who's overly admired is at risk of being exchanged. So think about that next time you're talking about how beautiful your baby or your niece or nephew or grandchild is. That could just be alerting the fairies to the wanton and how much they want to have that child because of its perfection. And changelings aren't just part of the child lore. It's believed that these creatures can swap out with adults, and sometimes it's very subtle little changes and differences, but some of the results are really creepy. They do not seem to be good creatures that have swapped out. They're not leaving us a replacement that you can just allow to live amongst us and know that they're there and it doesn't really bother you. They're kind of like that movie Pet Sematary. When you bury the person, they've come back different and weird and usually in a much darker mindset. So the whole theory and ideas behind changelings is really fascinating. And Lore is exploring that in the Black Stockings episode. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out now, this is a great time to get involved. Go check it out for yourself. There's 6 episodes up there. It is a 6-part miniseries that launched on Amazon Prime in October on Friday the 13th. What a perfect day to do that. You can watch it now exclusively on Amazon Prime Video. Remember, help support the sponsors that support this show. Go watch the show and do me a favor. Don't just watch it. I want you to also rate the show, report it, talk about it, pass it among your friends and relatives. This is a really cool opportunity for you to help support one of the advertisers on our series. Because remember, the more you support our sponsors, the more we can make the show available to you for free. We can make the show as few commercials as possible per episode, so check that out. And since we're talking kind of about folklore and information like that, here's a really interesting story that comes to us from the Daily Mail. According to this, a dead dragon has been discovered by residents of a Chinese village who claim that a bizarre skeleton is proof that the mythical creature actually exists. It's a peculiarly long skeleton. It measures about 60 feet. It has 2 incongruous little arms jutting out of the center and a head that looks suspiciously like a cow's skull. It was found laid out in a field in the Zhengshaku city in China's northern Hebei province. Unlike dragons depicted in Western mythology, though, traditional Chinese dragons have no wings, and they fly by swimming through the air, much like how snakes slither across the ground. The anatomy of the strange skeleton thereby convinced some locals that the remains could, in fact, be a dragon. Footage taken by various witnesses at the scene showed dozens of villagers surrounding the suspected dragon remains. The villagers are not sure what to make of the skeleton, but a superstitious few seemed convinced that they were indeed looking at the remains of a mythical creature. You've got Nietzsche's on Chinese social media said the ribby skeleton appears to have been placed there intentionally, perhaps as a prop for a movie, but so far no one has come forward to confirm these claims. You can go to the website www.wukong.com. People wrote that the skeleton looked like a movie prop made with a cow or sheep bones. And it does. I mean, it's really well done. I've never seen a cow skull, but this definitely looks like a dragon head to me. I mean, it's perfect. A writer on the website also posted a picture of locals riding the creature and said that the picture was proof that they knew it was a prank. They wrote that the villagers were riding on it and had pictures taken. They showed no respect, so it's obvious that they knew that it was a fake. Now, you know, it's funny. If you don't take pictures with it and you show this quote-unquote reverence, then it's a fake because that's not the way people would react. If I saw pictures, if I saw what I thought were the skeletal remains of a dragon, you can damn well be sure I'm going to be smiling and acting like a goof, taking photographs, video, and everything with it because that would be amazing. And all I'm seeing are some people that look pretty astounded, and it's a pretty big group of them staring at this and playing and messing around with it. That's a pretty exciting find. And if it's been something that's part of your culture and lore, and you've just stumbled upon it, to me, that would be a natural reaction. But again, we may never know. Regardless of the skeleton's origins, the video has been viewed more than 10 million times. So it could be proving to be one of the most popular hoaxes to have ever been perpetrated. Here's a creepy one we'll wrap up with for supernatural news. Are you waiting for me? Landlady films a ghost of a girl killed by a car outside haunted pub speaking to her. According to the story, again from the mirror.com, a landlady filmed the spooky moment she believes the ghost of a girl killed by a car outside of her pub spoke to her. In her spine-tingling footage, inside the dark tavern, footsteps can be heard before a young girl's voice appears to call out, "Are you waiting for me?" And then a door creaks. Bedella Arms hotel owner Michelle Corrick thinks the ghoulish voice is the spirit of a young girl stuck over 15 years ago as she chased her pet turtle into the road. The 49-year-old is determined to uncover the truth amid a wave of paranormal activity surrounding the historic pub in New South Wales, Australia. It's a cool-looking little video. The mom of three who lives above the heritage-listed hotel said, "It was only myself and the security guard there at the time. We were waiting around when we felt this sudden drop in temperature. I could feel someone there. We had all been waiting here at the bar every night, so we felt shocked and excited when all of the long nights paid off. I couldn't help but wonder what she meant. Are you waiting for me? Maybe it's because I wait in the bar for her every night." That's what the owner is saying. The historic Bodella Arms has stood in Bodella, nearly 124 miles from Canberra, since 1875, but Michelle and her husband, Nick, took over the pub back in 2014. Since she shared the footage on social media on Friday, it's racked up now over 4,500 views, and has even had her contacted by a family member of the girl she believes is now haunting the venue. Michelle was told the tragic 5-year-old died 15 years ago after she was hit by a car outside the establishment when she chased her pet turtle into the road. She said, "The girl's voice is gentle yet high-pitched. I don't know how to alter footage, so it is what it is. I've also heard a man laughing, and it did scare me because it was echoing and deep, but I never felt threatened. I fear the living more than the dead." Michelle believes the venue could be haunted by numerous ghosts after snapping photos of otherworldly orbs, which appear as glowing balls of light in her photography, and strange gray shapes she believes could be spirits. The intrigued mom sought the services of a clairvoyant who says she supports her research into the history of the hotel, even though she kept him in the dark on her findings. But despite her eerie discoveries, Michelle says she doesn't fear the spirits, even allowing her children, twins Jasmine and Jackson, both age 2, and Bailey, 12, to play games with the spirits. She now plans to make it her mission to shed light on the dark history behind the spooky goings-on by continuing to stake out the bar for more paranormal activity each night. Michelle said, "We've got plenty of ghosts here. I've never felt threatened. I got a clairvoyant to come through, but I didn't tell him anything about the pub. I wanted him to tell me what he told me supported the research that I've done. We will keep doing nights and keep asking until she tells us. I have faith she will communicate again." Hold tight, we've got more, and we've got some ParaShare coming your way next on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness.
Beyond the Darkness.
Welcome back. This is the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness, brought to you today by Amazon Prime's exclusive series Lore, a chilling 6-episode anthology series currently available. Began on Friday the 13th. You can find all 6 episodes available right now on Amazon Prime exclusive. And if you love what you hear on Beyond the Darkness, you're going to love what you see on the Amazon Prime exclusive series Lore, brought to you by an executive producer of The Walking Dead and an executive producer of The X-Files, based on the podcast phenomena with over 70 million downloads. Lore. With creator and narrator Aaron Mahnke behind the wheel, they explore the most terrifying tales throughout history. Each uniquely creepy episode takes a myth that's rooted in historic folklore and twists it, exposing the timeless terrors that still haunt us today. Real life can scare you to death. And with that, let's get started with some ParaShare. Hi, Tim and Dave. Happy Halloween to you both. My name's Clyde, and I've got a decent story for you both. Not necessarily scary, but creepy all the same. To start with, since I was able to read, I've always had a knack for self-studying paranormal and the like, even before paranormal was an everyday word. While all the kids in my kindergarten class were getting books about sports and other junk driving or during library visits, I often checked out the same book, often about ghosts, UFOs, and Bigfoot. The only book, mind you, several times. Anyway, on to my story. After I married my fiancée in 1993, I started a job at a department store located in historic downtown Greenville, Ohio. The building was almost as old as the town itself. Part of my job was having to go upstairs on the second floor of the building to get clothes rack or take one up, among other things. To get upstairs, one had to go out the front of the store and a flight of stairs, a very dark, steep flight of stairs. Oftentimes, I walked up thinking I was going to come face to face with a small child, a girl with blonde hair and a white shirt and checkered skirt. Don't ask me why such a vivid description. Working in the large upstairs area was bad enough being all alone. Thinking I was being watched made it even more chilling. Now, I never told anyone about this for fear of being mocked, of course. A few years later, I was having a discussion about ghosts with a coworker who had a similar interest. She told me a story about one morning she came to work. First one there, as usual for her. She said after a few minutes, she heard a girl crying. Thinking it was her granddaughter, whom her mother might have dropped off as she did sometimes, looking around, she called out her granddaughter's name. Following the sound, making her way back to the store, she thought she caught a glimpse of a small blonde girl in the corner crying. My face went white and my spine grew cold as she told me this. I never did tell her my experiences. Well, that's what it was. It's not scary, but it is a little creepy. Anyway, I've been a fan of your show since your appearance on Talk is Jericho last year, thusly listening to Darkness Radio afterwards and Beyond the Darkness. Thank you for your time, guys, and keep up the great show. Well, thank you, Clyde, and I'll be visiting again with Talk is Jericho very soon. I know we recorded an episode talking about true crime and my affinity for it and my personal relationship that led me to have such an overwhelming interest in true crime and that whole genre. So that's creepy and chilling, and we're going to be doing that real soon. So I think he said it'd be airing sometime around the end of October, beginning of November. So keep checking for that. If you're not familiar with that, Chris Jericho, the world-famed WWE star and lead singer of the band Fozzy, has his own talk show. We're part of his network here on Podcast One. He has a show called Talk is Jericho, and he covers all topics, including the paranormal. So make sure you check out Chris's show. Dear Dave and Tim, I want to start by saying the podcast with your two daughters was awesome. It reminds me of my sisters, who I sadly don't get to see a lot. They live out of state, and I only see them during big family gatherings. Well, I want to stop there. As Dave and stop reading this note, just to tell everybody, thank you so much. We had a fun time doing that show. It's been something that's kind of kicked around in my mind for a while. And in all truth, my guest that was scheduled to record with me canceled literally minutes before we were supposed to record. And my daughter stepped up and they said, well, we could talk about the paranormal with you, Dad. And I thought, well, we can always play a rerun, but let's go ahead and record this and see what happens. And I was so proud of my girls, and I thought it was a fun episode, and I thought it gave a really great insight in kind of the way children think about the paranormal. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, it's the Children of the Darkness episode from last week. But I really thought that they did well, and I'm very proud of them and the questions and thoughts and concepts that they had that they've come up with all on their own. Some of that stuff was brand new to me. I'd never heard their theories on this before. So let's get back into this letter. I have a story involving one of my little sisters a few years back when I was visiting for summer. It was a casual night, nothing special. My mom was downstairs in the basement ironing clothes for work in the morning, as she did every work night. I, being the only adult in the house at the time, got the job of being babysitter for the short time my mom was downstairs. Me and my two sisters were on the couch upstairs watching cartoons when I got thirsty and went into the kitchen for a drink. My little sister, Madison, was sitting furthest from the TV and was in a perfect spot for an easy scare, so I quietly began to crawl on all fours towards her. Suddenly, I noticed her gaze was fixed on an old barber chair my mom had in the corner of the room. I stopped for a second to see what she was looking at. "Madison?" I said quietly. No response. "Madison," I said again. No response. I stand up at this point and say loudly, "Madison!" She finally points to the barber chair and says, "Who's that man?" My hair shot straight up and I screamed, "Mom!" And I ran downstairs. I told her what happened and she smirked as she walked upstairs and picked up my sister. "Who's that man you saw, Madison?" my mom said. My sister quietly said, "Papa." You see, Papa was my grandpa, who had passed away in early 2006 of cancer. Crazy thing is, my sister Madison wasn't born until 2008. She's never met Papa before in her life. Looking back now, I know Papa was just checking in on us, and that he meant no harm. But thinking about that night still gives me the creeps. Thank you, you guys rock. And that comes from Ryan in California. See, Ryan, you go set up your sister to scare her, and what happens? You end up getting a chill. I'm glad it was just your grandpa and everything was good, though. Hi, Dave and Tim, Brenda in Lake Zurich, Illinois. I love your show. I thought I'd contribute just a few of my many encounters that I've experienced. Our house, no, not in the middle of the street, and yes, I also grew up in the 80s, was built in 1950. The heat air ducts are above, and the vents are on the wall near the ceiling. I was sitting at the dining room table working on a project when I heard a noise. As I looked up to see what the noise was, the vent was moving. back and forth, opening and closing by itself. This continued a number of times before it stopped. It freaked me out, but with other occurrences that I have had in the past, it didn't scare me. I knew whatever it was just jokes around and doesn't mean any harm. Another time, my husband was working in our bathroom, and he heard a woman humming a song, which sounded like it was coming from the kitchen. He thought it was strange since I had just left the house to go grocery shopping. He thought I must have forgotten something and come back. When he walked toward the kitchen and he approached to inquire why I came back, the humming stopped. There was no one there. He asked me once I returned if I came back for anything earlier, and I let him know I didn't. We both looked at each other puzzled and knew there was something other than us in that house. But by far the strangest occurrence happened on an early Thanksgiving morning, around 5 a.m. a couple of years ago. We live on a side street, and across from our house is a park. On the far side of the park is a wooded area that separates the park from a residential area. As I was preparing the food for the day's events, I look out the kitchen window. It was a gray and dismal day. Then I saw a young woman coming out of the wooded area. I thought it was odd to see her coming out of the woods at such an early hour. I thought perhaps she lived behind the wooded area, using it as a shortcut to get to the main road. The young woman looked a bit outdated. She was tall and thin with long, beautiful curly blonde hair and was blowing in the wind. She had on a long dress, and her coat was such a vivid color of red, and on the front of the coat were double rows of big black buttons. I watched her as she walked across the park toward the road. Right before the road is a line of small trees that frame the entrance to the park. As she walked past one of the trees, to my astonishment, I didn't see her come out of the other side. The tree is small and not very wide. If she would have changed the direction in which she was walking, she still would have been visible, since the park is open and clear. I went to the front door and stepped outside to have a look. There was no sign of her. She just vanished. Thank you both for all you do, and keep on rockin'. I love you guys. Well, thank you, Brenda. That's very sweet. We love you in a mostly platonic way. I can't speak for Tim. He's vile and probably loves you in a dirty way. Dave, I heard you on Coast to Coast, and I heard that you were looking for experiences. Below is my experience. Please let me know if you have any interest or just want to learn more. I call this story The Visit. I was sleeping peacefully in my bed, as I had many nights before. It's 2:33 a.m., the time everything seems to go down. I awakened to the sound of someone running down my hallway. The steps were heavy, almost such that I could feel the house move. Somehow, this was all I felt for a moment. At once I was awake, though I couldn't move. I could open my eyes, but I couldn't see. There was such a blinding light that I couldn't clearly make things out, though I could see a figure above me. It wasn't so much that I couldn't move, but more that something wasn't allowing me to. I wanted to see what was in my house. Did something break in? Do I need to protect myself? All at once, a voice entered my mind. It was female. It was kind. She said, "Relax. Everything is going to be fine. You need to sleep." All at once, it was as if I didn't have a care in the world. It was the most beautiful voice I'd ever heard, and in seconds, I was back asleep. When I awoke the next day, all of my doors and windows were shut and locked from the inside. There's no way anything had gotten in. This whole encounter seemed very odd to me. I didn't know what had happened, but I suspected. I've always been a firm believer in the thought of someone out there from another world. When I was 4 years old, I clearly saw a figure in my backyard radiating with bright light. It was like a flash, and they were there. Just as quickly, they were gone. I remember running, terrified to tell my family, but of course, nobody thought much of it. There was another time when I was 12. I had a dream about aliens, as I often did. When I awoke, I had something in my finger. Just under the skin on my ring finger on my right hand was something that felt almost like a BB from a child's BB gun. I didn't know what it was or how it got there. I showed my aunt. She just told me it was weird. The funny thing is, I could push this thing almost all the way up to my arm, to my elbow, under the skin. Somehow, it would always find its way back in the same spot in my finger. About 2 weeks went by, and I had the same dream, exact every detail. But when I woke up, the thing was gone. I didn't notice right away, but soon after, I came upon a tiny, straight-line scar between my fingers, possibly where something was inserted and then removed. I don't know. I've always had experiences, and I wouldn't mind discussing them more. Thanks, and that's from Robert Chandler. Well, Robert, thank you very much for sharing your story. And please, yes, if you've got more stories, we'd love to hear about them. You can always write those stories into me here at dave@darknessradio.com. And you mentioned that you heard me on Coast to Coast AM. I'm hosting Coast to Coast this weekend, guys. Friday night, we're going to be looking at nightmares. So if you want to call in, the good doctor will be with us again that we had on our show a few weeks ago. He'll be analyzing your nightmares, taking a look at what makes us tick. What do these nightmares mean? Are they always impending doom? Are they really creatures or monsters attacking us in our dreams? Could it be a mixture of that or our brain working out problems? Could it be a little bit of both? Well, that's what our guest believes. So we're going to talk about that on Friday night on Coast to Coast AM. And on Saturday night, we're going to be talking a whole night full of ghost stories with one of my favorite guests. Troy Taylor will be joining me to discuss this. And then Colin Dickey will be in the last 2 hours of Coast to Coast AM talking about Haunted America as well. So if you're interested, please check out coasttocoastam.com. That's coasttocoastam.com/stations. And then you can go find where there's stations and times in your area to hear Coast to Coast. It's on over 600 stations nationwide. So please listen to the show. And if you like when I host Coast to Coast AM, do me a favor and write them. Tell them at Coast to Coast that you love when I fill in. Let them know. Give them some words of encouragement for me. It always goes a long way, and I appreciate that. All right, we've got a couple more emails here. Hi, Tim and Dave. I love darkness. I've been a faithful listener of you and Tim since 2013, and I promised Tim I'd send my story a long time ago, so here it goes. This is a long story, but please know that on top of this pretty bizarre happenings I can tell you besides what's on the message, I also have a video that might blow your mind. It has surprised every person I've shown it to. I have never publicly shared it, but only shown it to very few and close friends, or family and friends, like 3 friends, as well as the UFO Club of Virginia, which is a small group of enthusiasts and experiencers. Some members are retired and or descendants of military personnel, other government agencies, one pilot that I knew of, and a police officer. I've grown to love this group, although I am the newbie and the youngest member at the ripe old age of 30. Although I'm usually the breadwinner as a working mom in the wireless industry, I'm currently a stay-at-home mom to 4 amazing kids. 3 insanely intelligent boys, 12, 4, and 2 years old, and 1 equally intelligent baby princess who's the love of my heart. She's 9 years old. Growing up in rural Virginia, on land that our family had owned since the early 1800s, I've had numerous unexplained paranormal, blatantly satanic, and just downright creepy experiences on this land. We always had strange ordeals with electromagnetic interference, including light bulbs just exploding above me or just going out. It still happens to me to this day. Drinking glasses breaking by themselves while nearby or breaking in my hand, and electronics turning on and off or completely dying altogether without explanation. I thought I'd seen it all, the paranormal-wise, not so much UFO at that point, but I'd never rejected the idea. But I do have to tell you that my life has changed drastically starting as of January 2016. There are 3 levels of strangeness to this story, so here goes. Level 1 of strangeness. What are we seeing? In January of 2016, I went to my best friend Angela's house late, around 10 or 11, to spend the night with my daughter and have a girls' night. We've been best friends 10 years, so our kids have grown up together. I had just arrived and we were smoking a cigarette in the backyard when we were startled to see 3 very large orange orbs with a dim glow that were hovering at the tree line that separates her yard from the neighbor's. Yes, real-life orbs with the naked eye. That impresses you so, Dave. I'd say that they were about 4 to 6 feet in diameter. We've seen spirits and poltergeist activity and other strangeness, but never anything like this. My phone instantly began freezing and glitching as I desperately tried to record these things. Even my flash on my camera was blinking on and off before I managed to open the camera app. They slowly drifted away towards the neighbor's house and instantly disappeared. That was only the first 5 minutes of that night. I'd like to mention that I am good with phones. I fix them. I flash them. I install customized ROMs, etc. My phone was perfectly fine until that night. As the night progressed, we saw so many baffling things, and my phone just got worse and worse. We started seeing rod-shaped objects, spheres, and stars that changed colors and moved erratically, zigzagging vertically and horizontally. Even our 4 daughters came out to watch and wonder, although they were freaked out by the electricity in the house flickering when we went in for bathroom breaks. Now, here is where the next level of strangeness begins. Level 2. This is getting weird. Despite my phone restarting and freezing from time to time, we first saw the orbs, I still managed to capture video footage of some incredible things, as did Angela. We showed each other and our daughters some of the footage. We also wanted to be sure we weren't all mass hallucinating, so we recorded regular stars and compared them to the videos of other stars and objects we were seeing. Needless to say, the difference was night and day. As the night progressed, I decided that I would begin to back my videos up on a cloud server since my phone had been acting up. Just to be safe, I went to the videos on the phone and noticed that a good amount of them were missing. Oh, crap, I thought. I should have started backing them up as I recorded each video. So I asked Angela to back up her videos as I backed up the few videos I still had on my phone. It turns out that a lot of her videos were gone too. Being the conspiracy theorist I am, I began to worry a little bit about it and didn't stop us from backing up what we could, but deciding to keep watching and taking more video. There was a star that had caught our attention a few hours before because it flashed brighter. It seemed to change colors and was getting lower to the ground and bigger, while still remaining in the same direction in the sky instead of gradually making its way across the sky like normal stars as this early morning hours approached. By the time it was 5 a.m., and we were cold but still fascinated by this thing because it seemed like it was not only changing color, getting closer, rotating and spinning, it literally divided itself into 2 and then 4 separate parts, while still staying connected in a 4-parted sphere. Not wanting to lose sight of this thing, but needing to get warm, we found a convenient spot on the living room couch where we could prop our phones up out the open window as not to record a shaky video. So now we enter level 3 of strangeness. Okay, what the actual hell is going on? After recording what we could, daylight began to break, and we ended up this amazing night as Angela's husband woke up to get ready for work, while we tried to explain what had been happening while he was asleep. He scoffed and started making coffee. I went to pull up some of the voices of the shape-shifting mind screwery to show him and to upload it to the cloud, and of course, most of it was missing. What I did still have was suddenly an unsupported file format, and even though it was recorded from my own phone, I was pissed. However, Angela still had a very nice video, so I told her to immediately upload it to my cloud before something else happened. I watched her upload it, and I signed out of the cloud after saving it just to make sure. I wasn't taking any more chances. My daughter and I went home to get some rest and to show my small family the impressive footage that Angela captured. They were dumbfounded, and I was still in shock. The next morning, I went to work eager to show my boss and one of my 3 close friends the video. I log into my cloud, and it's nowhere to be found. I frantically call Angela and have her upload it again. After a few minutes, the video shows up and then quickly disappeared when I tried to open it. I look in all my cloud folders to see if maybe it was unintentionally moved, and I eventually found it in the trash folder. Guys, I kid you not, I still can't figure this out. If someone didn't want us to have the video, why put it in the trash folder without properly emptying it to permanently delete the contents? There are so many more questions about this whole thing. It's just so much to take in. At any rate, the video is taken at the point where the thing had already morphed into 2 or 4 parts, and for some reason it wasn't able to capture the extreme color changes. It's still cool, though, and upon Googling shape-shifting UFO, I discovered someone had uploaded a screenshot of a 4-segmented UFO eerily similar to the one in the video by the International Space Station just before they cut the live feed 2 nights before this happened. There wasn't much more to tell about what's happening since then. There's much more to tell about what's happened since then. Several extremely unnerving events. One that happened while I was in with my oldest son, 10 years old at the time. Within the first 48 hours of that bizarre night, I don't even feel comfortable writing it. Another few days, the same oldest son, one absolutely horrifying event. A few with my daughter, age 9, a few with other friends and family members, too many to count with Angela, and still continues to this day. Granted, not every day is filled with orbs, UFOs, and insert subject matter too scared or paranoid to write here. but enough to have me on edge, intrigued, fascinated, in love, and absolutely addicted to figuring out what exactly is going on in this amazing world. I'd love to talk to you sometime, so please feel free to call, text, or email me. All right, we just may do that, and maybe, Flory, you'll come on the show with us and share your stories, because we'd love to hear this, especially if you've got even more creepy things to share. All right, let's wrap up with this one. Hey, Dave and Tim. First off, I've got to tell you guys, I've become a huge fan of the show. I've been listening to the show via podcast for about 8 months now and was first turned on to the show after hearing Dave host Coast to Coast. Anyway, on to my story. I grew up in a small mountain town in the middle of Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The area surrounding our house had always had an odd feel about it. The large cottonwood that grew in the backyard had been, apparently, an old meeting ground for the Native American chiefs way back in the day. Often, there were areas that could be cloaked in a mist or smoke, which would not be unusual if it weren't for the fact that it would be visible during a hot July day. Along the main road, though, along the main road through the country that led to our house was an old dilapidated home that no one would speak about. The house was in complete disrepair. The roof was caved in, the walls were falling apart, and it was surrounded by trees that appeared to have been planted as a windbreak. In all my 18 years of living near it, I was never able to get a straight answer on its history. I spoke with neighbors who had lived in the area for generations, and always the subject was changed when I began to ask questions. Shortly after graduating high school, my parents moved out of state to Arizona. As I had a good-paying job and a girlfriend, I decided to couch surf my friend's home so that I could stay in the area. After a friend left for college, I found myself back in the area where I grew up. The home that I ended up staying in happened to be almost directly across from this old, run-down home. I was uneasy to begin with, but the night this event occurred solidified in my mind that the area had much more to tell than the families in the area wanted to talk about. I had finished the late shift at my job and arrived home at about 11:30 p.m. As per usual, my host family was asleep, and so I set up myself in the gaming rocking chair and wasted the next few hours with mindless gaming. Around 2 a.m, I finally decided to head up for bed, and that's when it happened. I have heard of people wrestling with dark forces, and that's exactly how this felt. I had laid down in my cot and was staring at the ceiling, letting my mind relax. I always had a difficult time falling asleep, and this night was no different. My friend had a TV, VCR, and a stereo in his room. Anyone familiar with the old VCRs know that many of them would display the time in that old-school digital green hue. As I was staring off to space, I became aware that I was no longer seeing the green tint in the room. In fact, I was no longer seeing anything in the room. It was at this precise moment that I felt the darkness. As soon as I had become aware that there was no light in the room, and that, in fact, I could not make out any shapes in the room, I felt the force of darkness. I say force because that is exactly what it felt like. I could feel the darkness closing in on me. Have you ever watched a documentary on creatures of the deep ocean, the bioluminescent creatures that pulse in the darkness? This is how this felt. I was consciously fighting the encroaching blackness. I was raised in a religious family and understood that calling on the power of Jesus can overcome such things. This night, however, the dark force was fighting back. I could feel my energy pulsing out against the enveloping darkness. I could see the change in the depth of the darkness when I sent my energy against it, and I could see the resurgence of the darkness when it would push back. I fought desperately for 15 to 20 minutes, all the while watching the darkness overcome. When the black was mere inches away from my face, and I felt that all was to be lost, I began a desperate plea to God. Understand that although I had been raised with the faith in God, I was also a rebellious teenager. I, at the time, was questioning my faith as well as trying to understand the concept and character of God. Fortunately for me, his understanding as well as forgiving, I prayed to him at that time with all the faith, knowledge, and trust that I could muster and still had for him. My desperate pleas to him were heard because all at once the darkness lifted, and I could once again see the familiar glow from the VCR, the shapes of furniture becoming clear once again, and that's when I heard it. The best description that I have for it was a scream, an unholy screech that renders one immobile. Have you ever heard a cougar scream? A banshee, perhaps? That's what this sounded like. The scream came from just outside the bay window located in the game room, the room I had just left from playing video games. The scream was incredibly loud and lasted a good 30 seconds. I felt somewhat safe as I could see again, but it took me a little longer to get to sleep that night. As I stated before, the entire mountainside had an eerie feel to it, and I have many more stories to tell from growing up there. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to read this. Keep up the good work, Dave and Tim, and that comes from Nick. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us, Nick. And remember, you guys can share your stories by emailing us at dave@darknessradio.com. That's dave@darknessradio.com. The scariest stories are true. Amazon Prime exclusive lore series. We'll show you that. Go check it out for yourself right now. Watch it exclusively on Amazon Prime Video. Check out some of my favorite episodes. You can check out Unboxed and Black Stockings and The Beast Within right now. All 6 episodes are available. Those are 3 of my favorites, and I think they'll become 3 of yours as well. So go check out Amazon Prime's exclusive series, Lore. It's available right now from one of the executive producers of The Walking Dead and an executive producer of The X-Files, based on the podcast phenomena Lore. With over 70 million downloads, creator and narrator Aaron Mahnke will explore all of these stories and share them with you. So check it out. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Remember, we've got True Crime Tuesday Revisited, and we've got a hell of a story to share with you, plus another brand new episode of True Crime Tuesday. You can find all that information at our website at darknessradio.com. And while you're there, click on the Halloween for Hunger banner and make that donation to Second Harvest Heartland. Help us hit our $15,000 goal, $1 at a time. That's all it takes. If each one of you listening to this show donate just $1, we will be able to help at least 45,000 people get meals. So please help us out right now by going to darknessradio.com. Click on the Second Harvest Heartland Halloween for Hunger banner. And remember to take care of all of our sponsors that you hear advertised on this show. And go watch Amazon Prime's exclusive Lore series. Rate them, review them, let them know that you love the show and that you heard about it here on the best in paranormal talk radio. Tell them you heard it on Beyond the Darkness.